Welcome to the Design for Living Big Book Study. Gord and I will be sharing our own experience of how the Big Book has helped us in the removal of our DOC, which means drug of choice, actually our substance or drug of no choice. But more importantly, how the directions contained within the Big Book have helped change all aspects of our lives. We will share our pain and successes as it relates to our own journey and the hundreds of men and women that we have had the pleasure of helping through sponsorship and otherwise. Gord, I, and the THEUDRCAST are not affiliated with any 12-step program. We neither endorse nor discredit any method of recovery. We are supportive of all paths to recovery. We are just passionate about the way that worked for us. The opinions shared in this study are solely of the person sharing them. We'll take a break about 8 o'clock or so. It'll be about 15 minutes. And that's about it. Okay. So, hi, Megs. We got Megs popped on. She's usually here in person. We're on step 5. We're going to finish the step 5 and bust into the step 6. But I will spend a little bit of time on the 5. I know last week I did talk, like at the end of the 4, I talked a lot about the 5, and then we got into the 5. And I think one thing I'd like to clarify, you know, sometimes when I speak about the step 5 process and like what I think, remember, this is my opinion, right? From my experience, so it's pretty valid. And then if Jesse was here or Gord was here, they have a lot to say on step 5 and the processes of it too. But don't think that you're doing anything wrong in your recovery if it didn't go exactly like how I was saying. You know, there's more paths than just one, but I will say that the path that we have seen is very effective. Being humbled in that step 5 is very important. And then the various other aspects that I spoke about are also important, but it's not the only way to go, right? You know, I had a guy with a lot of sobriety talking to me today after a meeting, and he was saying, you know, he always gets his guys to go to the mountain. Whatever your sponsor says, I would say follow. When you always have an opportunity to redo your steps or do them again, and then do it a different way, right? Throw more mud at the wall and see what sticks. But I will share that I'm pretty strong about my opinions on the step 5 process. And I think when we talk about step 5, it's about sharing our story with another person, talking about our resentments and our fears and our sex conduct with somebody else. And that's a really big part of recovery, is doing a step 5. But I would say it's way more important for me to know what my step 5 is today. Like, what does a step 5 look like in a day-to-day basis? That's way more important than my step 5 that I did 10 years ago. My step 5 10 years ago, yeah, it was great, and I can share about that experience, and it's really important. But what about my fucking step 5 today? What does that look like today? Well, a step 5 is you and somebody else talking about your life. That's like what we do today. So a step 5 today and every day and along your day is much more important than the step 5 that you did do. Because as things come up in your life, you can talk to them with your God-centered 12-step pillar or your sponsor on the move and keep clearing the channel. So when we do the regular step 5, it's like I talked about it last session, it clears a lot of like the channel away so that you can look the world in the eyes and you feel like something shifted. But you can continually do that every day. And if you don't do that every day, in many respects, you start clogging up the channel again, right? So the step 10 part of the 5, you know, I'm just going to reiterate 10 again because it fucking contains step 5 in it. Continuing to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, and when they crop up, they're cropping up, guaranteed. We ask God to remove it at once. We always go to God first. You know, many people will call me and they have their issue, their life issue that they have to talk to me about. First thing I ask them is, did you pray about it at all? And they usually say no. And I'm like, well, you've been fucking around for like a year or two and you haven't gotten that part down yet? Like prayer. It's like super important. And then did you talk to anybody about it? Well, yeah, I talked to my grandma. Or I talked to my best friend who's not an alcoholic or addict. And I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about? Like, what kind of advice are you going to get from somebody that doesn't understand this illness, man? And like common sense has to thus become uncommon sense. The way that we run our lives, we have to change it. And it doesn't make sense always to talk to people about our problems. Well, that might be okay for my mom. My mom doesn't talk about her problems, but she ain't gonna die like I am. I need to be able to talk about these things with people so that I can remove self, so I can stay the fuck out of the way, so I can stay out of other people's business, so that I can focus on what I need to do for me. And my mom doesn't have to do that. She can live in some resentment. She can live in some fear. She can live in whatever she wants. It's not going to kill her, but it will kill me. It has the potential to kill me because it'll take me back to the drink. And for some of the newer people in here, I'm just going to read this quickly. If you do have a 12 and 12, it is on page, I don't know what page it is, but I'll tell you in a second. I never remember this one. Where? How do you know? You don't know. It's not 55. It's 50. It's page 50. Yeah, I'm switching. Sorry, thank you, though. Thank you for trying to help me. I do need all the help I can get, for real. So this is like for people that maybe haven't heard this before. It's so important. I read it at meetings. I read it all the time. It's one of my most favorite readings, and I just have to reiterate it, okay? By now, the newcomer has probably arrived at the following conclusions: that his character defects, representing instincts gone astray, has been the primary cause of his drinking and failure at life. So it doesn't say that the drugs and the alcohol are really the problem. It's talking about the character defects that are representing the instincts gone astray is the number one cause of my drinking or using and my failure at life. And what are defects of character? Well, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. That's what we've been talking about a lot. Self-pity, selfishness, people-pleasing, anger, ego, fear, judgment, whatever it might be. There's many of them. Those are the reasons why we drink, right? Unless this person is now willing to work hard at the elimination of the worst of these defects, both sobriety and peace of mind will still elude him. So if we don't work hard at the elimination of the worst of these defects, then we're going to drink. And if I end up not drinking somehow, then I'm not going to have any real peace of mind. I'm not going to have peace of mind like it says here. That's what I want, man. Like, that's a priceless gift, having peace of mind. And it will still elude him, that all the faulty foundation of his life will have to be torn out and built upon a new bedrock. And what that's saying is the faulty foundation of my life is based on my old ideas, my emotions and my attitudes, my old traumas, what I believe is to be right in the world, what I believe is to be wrong in the world, what I believe you should do, what I believe I should do, what the world tells me to do. Like, this is what I need to like kind of look at and like take down so that I can tear it down and build on a new bedrock. And the new bedrock is, a new relationship with like a creator. But really, it's really a real relationship with myself. As I build a relationship with God or creator, I build a relationship with myself. And through authenticity, we will always be able to connect with God. And I've done many step fives, and the number one thing that I think I've seen in step fives is the person, whoever I've listened to with the step five, the main thing is they've never been able to be who they were supposed to be. And they always had to be somebody else, i.e. the actor. They were the actor, trying to run the show, trying to arrange the lights, the camera, the ballet, the rest of the players in their own way. If everyone would just do as they wished, then everything would be good. And if I could do as I actually wish to, it would be good. But I can't even do that, right? I don't have the power because my instincts gone astray is actually what's in control, and that is what has the power. And what drives the instincts gone astray is fear and self-delusion, self-pity, self-seeking, and all the things that we're kind of trying to watch for. But if I don't have the awareness to watch for these things, then I'll just operate in them. And if I operate in them, then I drink again. So that's primarily what this big book study is about. It's about like rooting out like defects, I guess. Okay, so we were on page 74. Thank you, Robin. Do you know which paragraph? The first one? Okay. 73? Second paragraph? Okay. Okay. I think I did read that, but that's where we'll start. So second paragraph, page 73. More than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. He is very much the actor. To the outer world, he presents his stage character. This is the one that he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows in his heart that he doesn't deserve it. The inconsistency is made worse by the things that he does on his sprees. Coming to his senses, he is revolted at certain episodes he vaguely remembers. These memories are a nightmare. He trembles to think that someone might have observed him. As fast as he can, he pushes these memories far inside of himself. He hopes they will never see the light of day. He is under constant fear and tension. That makes for more drinking. He's under constant fear and tension. A lot of alcoholics or addicts who first try to get sober, they think that they have like high anxiety and depression. But the reality is those are symptoms of untreated alcoholism. And because we live with untreated alcoholism, we need to treat it with fucking something. But the only thing that we've ever known to treat our untreated alcoholism that we don't even understand at that point is drugs and alcohol. I can't handle my anxiety. I can't handle depression. I can't handle what's going on between my ears. I need to blot that out. So I put something in my body to quiet it in my brain. And so as soon as I take it in, just like it says in the doctor's opinion, he is restless, irritable, discontent. Think about that. When you don't drink or use drugs, eventually you get restless, irritable, and discontent, which can look like fucking agitated, annoyed, fucking bored, fucking like I'm itchy to do something. And like there's so many symptoms of restless and irritable and discontent. But then the book says, unless he can again experience a sense of ease and comfort that comes at once by taking the first few drinks. So when we're restless, irritable, discontent, then we are setting ourselves up to fucking pick up, right? And I might even be able to quit for about a week or two or a month or 3 or 4 or 6 even. Sometimes I can even make it almost a year. But that restless, irritable discontent that is still my old way of thinking, that stuff still is rolling around in there. And then at some point, I need relief. And then the book says, as he succumbs to the desire again. Succumbed means fail to resist. As I fail to resist the drink or the drug, because I'm actually powerless. No matter what I thought during those 2 or 3 or 6 months and how much I knew I wasn't going to drink or use, I don't have the fucking power to actually not use. But somebody new might think that they do have the power to not use. But if you stick around here long enough and you learn about what we're doing around here, you will see that you don't have the power to fucking choose. Because if you are left untreated, the restless, irritable discontent will come back, and beyond your own control, you will probably pick up. But the problem with us as alcoholics picking up is I got an allergy to fucking alcohol and drugs. The allergy is an abnormal reaction. And what it does to me is it makes my body want more. Even though my brain said, no, I don't want more, that doesn't matter. The book talks about he is not drinking to escape. He is not using to escape. He is drinking to overcome a physical craving in his body beyond his mental control. That is when I put the substance in my body. So that's important to know, that when you put it in your body, you actually go on an allergic spree. But is that really the fucking problem? No, it's not the problem, because if you don't put the first one in your body, then you never set off the spree. But we do put it in our body, knowing what fucking happens. What happens? Well, I end up on the street, so I fucking end up beating my wife. I end up fucking whatever it is that you end up doing. I end up not being a good mother, neglecting my kids, fucking, doing dumb shit that I really fucking feel guilty and shameful about, whatever that might be. We know that that's a thing. But that effective mental defense that you have in remembering that will one day give way for the insane idea that we shall have a drink today. And it's not even that you really think, you fucking just pick it up. And then you make some kind of excuse on why. Oh, well, fucking life is tough. I had a bad day. Oh, my fucking dogs were fucking pissing and shitting all over the floor. And I was all too much, and my boyfriend was blah, 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 blah. That's all. Sometimes these excuses have a certain plausibility, the book says. Sometimes they make some sense, those excuses. But in the light of the drinking bout that an alcoholic's drinking creates, all the carnage, it makes no fucking sense. It makes no sense. And the alcoholic will tell the truth sometimes. And the truth, strange to say, really, when you fucking push an alcoholic on these excuses, why they drink or use, they really don't know why. And when an alcoholic doesn't know why they pick up, they usually think that they pick up, that they made the choice. Until that person understands that they don't choose, that the alcohol or drugs chooses them based on their restless, irritable, and discontentedness. Because they need relief and they need it now. As they succumb to the desire again, which means fail to resist. So the effective mental defenses don't work. Me losing my kids ain't going to work. This ain't going to work. None of that works. And then put it in my body, set off the allergy, pass through the well-known stages of a spree. Sprees can last a day, week, months, or years. And once you come out of the spree, you emerge remorseful. I'm fucking guilty. I'm shameful. The hideous four horsemen are on me. Terror, bewilderment, frustration, and despair. I can't look people in the eye. I feel like a fucking hopeless piece of shit because I think that I'm doing this and I hurt people and I can't live up to what other people want. So I fucking feel these deathly, terrible feelings. So I emerge remorseful is what that means. And then eventually I kind of get my wits about me, and it's like with a firm resolution not to drink again. I'm making a decision to not drink again or not use again. And we've all done it. And then what happens? The book says it is repeated over and over and over and over and over and over. Unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, which means moral psychology, which means going from ego to fucking altruism, which means changing how we view life. Because if I don't change how I live and view life, the restless, irritable discontent is always going to be there because that's what runs my fucking brain. So if I don't deal with the shit will deal with me, and it always takes me back to the substance. Now, fast forward to being sober a while. Maybe you got step one and you are sober and you haven't really done the steps, or you haven't done any type of program at all to like clean house and keep the house clean. Now it's a different modality of if you don't deal with your shit will deal with you still. And it will the risk is still drinking if you're an alcoholic and addict. But we know lots of people who are on alcoholics and addicts who don't know how to deal with their shit, and the shit still deals with them, man. So it's really important to learn how to deal with your shit, which is why, back to the step 5, why I started the combo, talking to other people that can help you, that can call you on your shit, that can help you see compassion, that can do different things through the conversation. That is so important. The alcoholic and addict who doesn't share and doesn't talk, they don't do very well. Because this release valve, it allows, think about 2 things, repression and suppression. Repression is stuff that you actually think about that you don't want to think about and you push down. So repression pushes down suppression. Suppression is the stuff that you can't see, that you've never dealt with, that is based in your instincts typically. And so the repression pushes down the suppression. So if it's things that you're thinking about that you don't talk about, they get pushed down. So now if you do talk about them because you're thinking about them, now they start not getting pushed down. Now they start coming out. So then as you keep talking about the things that you repress, now you make room for the suppression to come out. So more is always revealed as you are able to at least talk and be honest and be willing about whatever it is that you need to talk about. And sometimes we don't even think we need to talk. But if you get in a habit of like just talking with people who are God-centered and 12-step, things reveal themselves. And then you're like, holy shit, where'd that come from? I didn't even know that was a thing. And then you heal a little more. And I always say this is millimeter by millimeter journey, right? So let's keep going. So as that makes for more drinking, fear and tension. Psychologists are inclined to agree with us when we have spent thousands of dollars for examinations. We know but few instances where we have given these doctors a fair break. We have seldom told the whole truth, nor we have followed their advice. Unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we were honest with no one else. Small wonder many in the medical profession have a low opinion of alcoholics and their chances of recovery. So many of us have tried psychologists, right? Shrinks and whatever. Can anyone, who's done shrinks quite a bit here? Anna, you have? Can you grab that microphone? Johnny, can you hook her up? I want to ask her a couple questions. Is it working?
Hello.
Okay. So as you saw shrinks in the medical fraternity, what was it like? Did you tell them all, and you were an alcoholic and addict through these interactions, did you tell them the things that you tell a sponsor?
I couldn't. I tried, but I couldn't. They usually shrink me based on what they know through their books, through what they study. And I couldn't be honest with them because I just didn't feel that connection that I do with my sponsor.
Okay. How often did you see a shrink?
During my first year of recovery, I had to see a shrink in order for me to get my kids back.
Okay.
And so I did that because I was told to do it.
How often?
It was usually 3 days a week. 3 days a week?
Yeah. Okay. Did he understand the illness as you now know it?
No. It's in my opinion, it just doesn't work when you work with a sponsor. Like I said, they base their opinions on the book they read, they study. Like what they study is how they trying to help us, but it just doesn't work for me.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, John. And I guess why I asked Anna those questions is because, in our literature, in the doctor's opinion, it talks about the psychologists that we have seen, But for these alcoholic types, it just doesn't do the trick. And many, many people, so just qualifying myself a bit, I've sponsored 300-400 people, probably like many, many hours. And a lot of them have said, dude, I spent like 80 or 100 grand on shrinks over my lifetime. And I don't get the same thing from them as I do from you guys in the program. Like you as my sponsor, Bill, I'm getting way more than I ever did out of my shrinks. But I was always told to go see a shrink. And it doesn't work for these allergic types. Like for us, for the real deal alcoholics, it doesn't really work. And I'm not saying just the sponsor is the ticket either. But I am saying as you build a real relationship with somebody, you will be able to talk about your life with somebody else. And the thing about me and you is we can see through the bullshit of another alcoholic and addict. Where that psychologist might be able to see a little bit of whatever it is, but he doesn't understand. He doesn't have an alcoholic addict mind. So we need to work with people in this illness that understand what we are. So anyway, let's keep going. We must be entirely honest with somebody, entirely honest. If we expect to live long or happily in this world, rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose this person or persons with whom to take this intimate and confidential step. It's an intimate. Think of the word intimacy. Intimacy. Into me you see. That's what intimacy is. And we typically think of intimacy only in in relationships, man and woman, intimate relationships. But no, the sponsor, sponsee, and like friends in recovery, these are intimate relationships as well. These are like legit, authentic, intimate relationship with human beings because we are allowing somebody into me we see. We're allowing people in to see us, and we can see into somebody else. And that connection that Anna talked about that she couldn't get from a psychologist was the heart. It was fucking heart to heart. That's what we're about in what we do. And then, so I want to use the word information. So as we discuss things with each other and we learn about this program and we go through the steps, a lot of people is like, that's a lot of information. That's a lot of information. And we go through the information. Think about the word information. Information. You are in formation as you go through the material. So you're forming, you're changing, you're in formation of who you're supposed to be. Getting rid of the things that you're not supposed to be, that we don't even know we're not supposed to be until we get into this work and we get into me, you see, and you can see the things and you start looking at yourself. And then you're building an intimate relationship with yourself. And like I said earlier in the step 5, most of the people have never been able to be who they're truly meant to be because they're not even having an intimate relationship with themselves. So you get to build an intimate relationship with yourself. The problem with that is we're going to look at the beginning parts. We're going to see a lot of things we don't want to see. We're going to see a lot of pain, hurt, guilt, shame, our actions, and things that we've done to hurt people that we really don't want to see. But then when you see it and you deal with it, there's like a relief that happens because you're letting some things go. And the relief valve is now undoing the repression and suppression. So you feel better. I couldn't tell you how many times somebody will sit with me and say, fuck, every time I sit with you, I just feel better. I feel lifted up. That's because that's what we do around here. We help people get honest and just talk. And it can be just talking sometimes. I don't recommend just talking. I recommend going through the material. But talking's good too, because you're building a rapport, right? You're building a relationship with somebody. Okay. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must and of course will want to go to the properly appointed authority whose duty is to receive it. Though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk with somebody ordained by an established religion. We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics. If we cannot or would not rather do this, we search out an acquaintance for a closed-mouth, understanding friend. Remember, this is 1935 when this was written. Some of this isn't actually applicable in today's day and age. Perhaps a doctor or a psychologist will be the person. It may be one of our own family, but we cannot disclose anything to our wives or to our parents which will hurt them and make them unhappy. We have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. Such parts of our story we tell to someone who will understand, yet be unaffected. Typically, that's a sponsor or a priest or somebody like that. The rule is, here's this. I want you to underline this. The rule is that we are to be hard on ourselves. We must be hard on ourselves. So that's like, you know, in the program you hear all the time, like, you know, I got to be gentle on myself. And step 4 is about my assets also. It's not just about my bad things. It's about my assets too. I got to really live in my assets. And I don't even want to look at all the negative things about me because that's not who I am and blah, 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 blah. The book's quite different, man. The book says I'm fucking to be hard on myself. And with proper sponsorship, the sponsor will be hard on you, but loving and compassionate in the same breath. It's not like we're just beating you. We're showing you, like, you know, look at your life, man. Look at what you're doing to your life. Look at what your people pleasing is doing. Your sex conduct showed me for 20 years that your people pleasing has put you in all of these situations. And why? Because you wanted a fucking boyfriend or a girlfriend because you couldn't say no. You needed somebody because of your codependency. So it's like whatever it is, right? Maybe it's anger. Maybe it's like using women or using men. It doesn't really matter what the defect is. And doesn't matter what like we're being hard on them for. But we can temper it. And there's always a way to temper it in step 5. Where you can be hard on them and you can always flip it and be like your experience is going to fucking help a lot of people. You know how many people suffer from what you're talking about? You're going to be really good at talking to other women or other men. And like when you get good at this, it's an easy massage. It's an easy thing to do. At first, as you listen to step 5s at first, you're going to make mistakes, but they're not really mistakes. Why? Because you're learning. And if you're really learning and growing, and you're worried about not having experience, how the fuck do you get experience without experience? Tell me that, right? So you got to try. You got to start somewhere. And every time that you start anything new, you look like an idiot. But this is a life and death errand. So you're not going to look like an idiot. You're going to do your best and you're going to ask Creator for the words all the time. And through a step 5 that I do, I'm constantly asking God for the right thoughts, actions, and words. Okay, let's keep going. And always considerate of others. Notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with somebody, it may be one who is so situated there is no suitable person. If that is so, the step may be postponed only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through with it at the first opportunity. So maybe you have done a step 4 in treatment and then you get out and that's as far as you got and now you're supposed to do your step 5, but you don't know who to like pick yet. Well, you got to be careful because it's kind of talking about that here, although it's a little different context because it's in 1935 when this was written. We say this because we're very anxious to talk to the right person. But it's important that we be able to keep in confidence, that he be able to keep in confidence, fully understand and approve what we are driving at. If we come out of treatment and we're just finished our step 4, fucking very scary place to be. And you might not be scared coming out of treatment, having your step 4 completed. But me looking at you, knowing what I know about this illness, I'm scared for you because you will not stay sober with an incompleted step 5. No matter what you think, right? So it's best to just get at it, man. Go at it. And like, you know, Mina and I were talking today about like recovery and the path and, you know, taking these steps and how hard it is and the fear of like my first time ever going to treatment or my first time ever talking to somebody about certain things, like fear. Fuck, the fear will steal my life away. We already talked about fear, right? But we have to step into these places where we're scared and do it anyway. That's why God's so important. He gives us the courage. He lends me his courage to do the things that I cannot do by myself, of myself. Left to my own devices, I'll clam up, and my ego that's trying to protect me actually hurts me because I don't get to step into the unknown and see what's there. Because my brain's like, what if this, what if that? And I'm always like, what if you fucking do it? What if you sober up? What if your life changes? What if you're good at the things that you don't think you're good at? What if the opposite stuff? And again, that's a huge reason why we need to stay around people in recovery doing this deal. Because we lift each other up, man. We inspire each other. If I go back to my old life, man, those guys are all doing what they do, and that just brings back undoes my psychic change. Just undoes it. So, who's got a question? Homie G. You got a question, homie G?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So just reading that the last part that you read, being able to keep a confidence that he fully understands, approves what we are driving at, that he will not try to change our plan. Like right now, I have a sponsor, right? And I'm trusting in him. And I feel like, I wouldn't say it's like really, you know what? Sorry, I'm just having a brain fart. My question, when I had my hand raised, it was about when you were talking about the psychologists and stuff like that, and the counselors and stuff like that. Because I was a certified counselor and I worked in the profession. And majority of the people who are normies and shit, I know they're good intentions. We're trying to help people like us, but in all actuality, the individual said it. You can't really, they don't understand unless they've experienced it. And also individuals who have a past with alcoholism or addiction, who are in the profession, but they're not really spiritually aligned or utilizing the 12-step recovery model. They tend to be very, how would I say it, taking other approaches that have multiple holes in their theory and practice. And I think they tend to go on more on theoretical knowledge and, what a book will instill in you, compared to that spiritual piece is never really brought up in the psychology world, right? And then also factoring in the part that says the rule, we must be hard on ourselves, but always consider of others. Like, for instance, being hard on ourselves, like, wouldn't that be a formality of like I know a sponsor would call you out on it, but wouldn't it be like them saying, oh, you're being in that state of self-pity, right? Like feeling sorry for yourself because of all the shitty things that you did. But in all actuality, it's like, do you have to be mindful of not going so deep that you can't get yourself out? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the question. It was a 2-part question, but I just wanted to put my own input because it doesn't matter how book smart you are or knowledgeable you are if you don't understand. Like I'm in the state of acceptance that God is everything or God is nothing. So, but yeah, if you can try to answer that question for me, like if you go, you know how some people tend to go so deep into like being hard on themselves, right?
Yeah.
And that could be scary, right? Like, what would be the line?
Yeah. For people that do go like the very depressive, as a sponsor, I have to be careful and like not push them down that rabbit hole. And there's a lot of building up to do with like a very depressive alcoholic addict, which is why it's so important to be in tune with your creator as you're doing this work, so that you're not pushing them and being like super hard on them either. So there is like a balance in this. And that's why I said, as you get better at it, the thing about being a sponsor is God's going to give you the people that are able to be helped by you. And God knows where you're broken. So he brings the people in your life that you can help that actually will help you work on the things that you need to work on. And maybe if you're like a guy that beats the shit out of people in that way, he's going to send you some depressives and some like people that need gentleness, because I need to build gentleness in my life too. And I might make some mistakes and I might push them a little too far. But if I really have a sincere desire to serve and be an agent of creator, I'll feel that and I'll make a correction on it. I might have caused damage, but I can also make an amend, or maybe I even get fired. But at the end of the day, as long as I'm able to claim some type of spiritual progress, then I'm going to learn a lesson. And maybe it's a lesson in humility, and it's the painful kind. So you're right. And just to reiterate, he was a counselor. He understands they don't really get it, and they don't get it. And what I love about the world of psychology in our world, like we see psychologists and psychiatrists and all these things, the word psychology, by definition, means the study of mind and spirit. But if you ask any psychologist, and I just met one when I went to Jordan Peterson last week, I said, the definition is study of mind and spirit. She's like, I know, but we don't study the spirit. They don't study the spirit. They don't bring that part in. Why? I don't know. Maybe they don't really want us to study the spirit. Maybe it's way easier to control our population a different way. Just saying. Don't want to start any conspiracy theories. But I really think, like, when you look at David Hawkins' map of consciousness, he rates all the levels of consciousness. And at 175 is pride. That's the world that we live in. It's actually in the lower levels of consciousness, and it's still in force. It's still in pride and ego. But it feels better than the lower levels, and our society is kind of mainstreamed pride. And it's a fear-based level of consciousness. But that's the best way to keep people controlled, because you get leveled up, then you can't really fucking stop people. Once people wake up in their own life, they're fucking unstoppable. Do you think governments and the world as a whole, like governments, want us to be unstoppable spiritually? Fuck no. They want us to pay taxes and fucking give them all the money and let them tell us what to do, versus us fucking knowing what to do with spirit. That's what I believe. What do we got? 7:55. Let's keep going a little bit. Okay. Next page. He will not try to change our plan, but we must not use this as a mere excuse to postpone. When we decide who is to hear our story, that's an important line there. Story. We waste no time. We have written an inventory, and we are prepared for a what? Long fucking talk. So when I go to the priest or to somebody else like that, It's not really a talk. It's me reading off my pages, and maybe he says a few things to me, but the book specifically says I'm in for a long talk. And I'll tell you, the step 5s that I do, minimum 7 hours. If somebody has done many sets of steps and I'm doing a step 5 with somebody that's like doing a good program, it might be 5 hours, 4 hours, maybe. But typically with somebody new, it's almost always at least 7 hours. And I've done step 5s that have went over 30 hours. I had to break those ones up a bit, but when you're trying to hear someone's whole story and you're into like a long talk, there's a lot of back and forth. And me as a sponsor, I want to hear what their life's been like. I want to find out the manifestations of self. I want to be able to see what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are. I want to be able to see where they avoid the conflict in their life so that at the end I can say, you're a conflict avoider. Like all of these relationships, you won't say the truth of what you actually believe. Why? Well, in the heart of hearts, they really do not know why. Just like the fucking drink. And typically, it's usually because they don't want the conflict. They hate conflict. So they avoid it. But they never avoid it because it's in fucking here, man. I always have the conflict here. Because if I don't say what I really need and want and have to say, I suppress and I repress and I push it down, and then I get sick, and then I get restless and I get irritable and I get discontent and I fucking start lashing out, or I just fucking drink. Why? Because as I succumb to the desire again, I fail to resist because I need an ease and comfort. And it comes at once by taking the first few drinks. But I only get ease and comfort from the first few anyway. But I put it in my body, the allergy takes over, and I'm fucked for another year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 where I'm dead. So that's why this stuff's so important. So we're in for a long talk. So any of you guys that are new to sponsorship, that are thinking of sponsoring, go into these step 5s and just be prepared for a long talk. Don't set your fucking schedule for the day. Don't be like, I got to be done by 2 o'clock. I got to fucking take my kids skating. That's not what this is. If I do a step 5, it's like it's booked. I'm cleared for okay, be at my house at 10 and hopefully we're done by 6 or 7 at night or 3 in the afternoon. Or, and you've heard before, and I'm native, right? So everyone says, you're fucking on Indian time. You're on Indian time. You're always late. Really, why Indian time's a thing is because most of the native stuff is all based around ceremony, and ceremony is healing, and healing takes what it takes, and there's never a time set for that. You don't set times for step 5s. This is a healing ceremony, man. Just give up your day, and if you're done early, okay, you got time. But if you're not done early, then you don't have the expectation. You set a time at 3 o'clock and you're only in halfway through the fears and it's 2 o'clock. Your mind's going, oh, fuck, my old lady's texting me. And now you're distracted. The loving connection is broken. They feel it. You're not effective. And it crookeds the whole thing. So some of you will do that. But be aware when you do that, the feelings that you feel as you're being agitated, as they're spilling their soul, and you're thinking about the fucking movie that starts in 45 minutes with your old lady that you promised her. Because you made a promise. You played God. I promise. Never promise, man. Never fucking promise. Right, Jill? I'm just kidding. I love my daughters. She's like, promise me. I'm like, nope, I'm not promising you. I'll do my best. That's all I can say. Okay. Okay, we'll explain to our partner what we are about to do and why we have to do it. We don't usually have to explain that unless it's somebody that doesn't know. In 1935 or 39, you might have had to find somebody, so it's not really apparent today. He should realize we are engaged on a life and death errand. Well, we all know that. And we usually will pick somebody that knows that too. Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence. Okay, I'm going to read this, and we'll take a break after this paragraph. We pocket our pride. We go to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. Once we have taken this step, withholding nothing. And it doesn't mean that you got to be perfect at this. Just be as good as you can at it. Don't worry about if you miss something. Don't worry about your perfectionist, defective character that wants to do everything the best possibly that it can be done because you want to be healed so fucking quick. You know what? It's all going to reveal itself anyway down the road. And whatever God needs to be revealed at that time, just be honest, man. And don't really worry about the things, but withhold nothing to your best of your ability. We are delighted. We can look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Why? Because you let the relief valve of the repressed and some of the suppressed negative energy that is holding you down and making you sick and restless, irritable, discontent. You've just let a lot of that out with God and another person. And that was a ceremony. Our fears will fall from us. We begin, that's an important one. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. It changes from this idea that I believe in God to like, I now start feeling God. But remember, we begin. This is a beginning, but it's something different than you probably felt before. So it's a good beginning and a good feeling. But don't mistake this for the spiritual awakening. So many people will do the 5 and fucking spiritual awakening. Oh my God, I feel so good. Yeah, you feel so good because you've never released anything before. So this experience feels so different than what you've lived that you will mistake this for a spiritual experience. The one. And it's not. You're not even halfway through the steps at this point. There's so much more. But because it's so much better and different than it was most of my life, I think I'm better. I feel fucking better. And what does my ego say? Dude, you feel better? You must be better. Okay, I'm just going to get on with the business of being self-satisfied again. Fuck, I need a relationship right about now. Fuck, I think I need a job. I think I need a set of wheels. You get the job, you get the relationship, you get the wheels, and then what? The wheels fall off. That's the alcoholic cycle from the fucking guys that don't understand the real alcoholic cycle. Oh, I'm fucking sober again. Oh, I need a job. Oh, fucking old lady. Fucking another set of wheels. Boop, don't. Doing the Fred Flintstone, the wheels fall off again. And then they do it over and over and over, right? Because they don't get this defective character stuff. This is the shit, man. If you don't get this stuff, you'll drink again. So anyway, now we begin to have spiritual experience. And remember, I want you to flip to page 567 in the book quickly as we just read the word spiritual experience. Top of the page, 567. The term spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in this book, which upon careful reading shows what? That the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms. So again, this is about a personality change sufficient so that you don't drink again. Why? Because your old personality will always need the ease and comfort because it will live in restless, irritable discontent. So we need to switch our personality so that we're not living there, and we switch it in a good way. And that comes millimeter by millimeter by millimeter by millimeter. And the step 5, maybe it's like a 5 millimeter jump. It gives you a pretty good shift in a step 5. But it's still only 5 fucking millimeters, man. But it's a pretty big jump. Yet it's true that our first printing gave many readers the impression that these personality changes or religious experience must be in the nature of spectacular upheavals. Happily for everyone, this conclusion is erroneous. In the first few chapters, a number of sudden revolutionary changes are described. Though it was not our intention to create such an impression, the impression that it's a big thing, a big moment, like Zeus throws a lightning bolt at your life and like, boom, you change. That's not what it is. And they didn't mean to do that, although there's some literature in here that says that a little bit. Many alcoholics have nevertheless concluded that in order to recover, they must acquire the immediate and overwhelming God consciousness, followed at once by a vast change in their feeling and outlook. No, that's not it. Among our rapidly growing membership, most members, thousands of alcoholics, such transformations, although frequent, yeah, maybe they are frequent. I don't see them that often, but whatever, are by no means the rule. Most of our experiences, spiritual experiences, are what the psychologist William James calls the educational variety, because they develop slowly over a period of time. So they develop slowly over time. So this big book study is helping you guys have little spiritual experiences, and when you add them all up over time through the steps, by the end of your 12th step, you've had a spiritual awakening. Means that you've had a pretty good size shift in the way that you see life, and the way you see other people, and the way you see yourself. And part of the way that I see myself when I did my first set of steps was I didn't beat myself with the club of anger anymore, because I realized that I was powerless over my anger. I was powerless over my guilt and my shame. I was powerless over this stuff. So it was like, holy shit, I'm not just a piece of shit. Fuck, there's a reason. And then back to step 4, getting down to causes and conditions. The truth about stock in trade. What am I trading? And then we do this work and we shift, okay? And I'll just finish this little paragraph. Quite often, friends of the newcomer are aware of the difference long before he is himself. He finally realizes that he has undergone a profound alteration in his reaction to life. That such change would have hardly been brought about by himself alone. What often takes place in a few months, man, few months, could have seldom been accomplished by years of self-discipline. Meaning, the set of steps should take you a few months. And if you do a set of steps in 3 or 4 months, a few is 3, so they can easily be done in 3. They can be done in a fucking 2 weeks. But 3 months is kind of the norm. What happens in 3 months could have not been done by years of you self-disciplining yourself and doing it a different way. Reading the self-help books and fucking doing all these things, and I'm just going to go to yoga. I'm going to change. I'm going to drink. Oh. And you drink again. With a few exceptions of our members find that they have tapped into what? An unsuspected inner resource. Okay, so we talk about God, and in our culture and like in some spiritual domains, they talk about source, right? Source is out there, source is kind of God. Well, we tap into an unsuspected resource. So if that's source, I got a little resource in me. So I get to tap into that. But I have to go through the psychic change. What that means removing all the shit that isn't God. That means shifting my belief system. That means shifting the way I look at myself. That means getting out of my resentments and going, holy fuck. My mom actually went through a lot. My dad went through a lot. That guy who fucking beat me up at the bar that night, he was fucking sick, man. He was sick just like me because I beat a guy up at the bar with a baseball bat once. And like all these things helped me start seeing the truth about what's really going on. So I clear that channel, and really what do I get in touch with? The fundamental idea of God that resides within every man, woman, and child, which is one word: love. That's what we are, man. That's what happens. And then we start living love for ourselves as we are in formation and build the into me we see intimate relationship with myself. I can see myself, and then I'm okay with myself. Once I'm really okay with myself, I'm okay with you. And once I quit resenting me, I never resent you. And then I realized all my resentments that I ever had at you, they were actually resentments at me. Any of the anger I had at you or the things that happened outside of me that I always blamed, they were never there, man. It's always in here. But that stuff really comes through a good step 10 over time. Without the step 10, the stuff that I just fucking said to you, it will not materialize. Won't materialize. You will only get a little glimpse of that, and you won't even get a glimpse of what I just said. But what I'm saying is fucking real, man. It's real. It comes through working a real step 10. So the unsuspected inner resource. And I'm, again, just quickly before we go to break, the resource. Okay, on Earth, Mother Nature harnesses resources. So God built Mother Earth, and Mother Earth is here, and Mother Earth is loving, and she's kind, and she has all sorts of things that keep us alive. Without Mother Earth, we're fucked, right? She gives us everything we need to live. She takes care of us just like a mother would. But so underneath Mother Earth, in the core of her, there's resources there. What are these resources? Well, water's a resource. Oil's a resource. Natural gas is a resource. And man will go to any length to get water, to get natural gas, to get oil. They'll do anything to get that shit, right? And what do they do to get it? They drill. They move mountains. They move earth. They'll do anything to get it. Well, we need to do the same things in ourselves. We need to do anything to get this source. The resource. The only difference is our resource is actually God. It's different than Mother Earth's, but it's also the same. And man is using our resources for his own gain, typically, and kind of destroying her in the process. But we will go into us, and it'll feel like we're being destroyed going through the process, because it'll shake everything we thought we knew about ourselves and about life. So it feels like we're being destroyed as we go into our resource. But then you run to God and go, fuck, God, help me. The foundation of my life is shaking and all the things are falling apart. My relationship with my wife is failing. My job is fucking crumbling. My friendships, blah, blah, blah. And you run to God and say, help me. He's like, dude, I'm the one shaking your life. You asked me to build with you and do with you as I will, didn't you? Didn't you ask me to remove the bondage of self? I thought I remember about 3 months ago, you were fucking on your knees. And you said, take away my difficulties. Yeah, I did. I said all that. That's what I'm fucking doing, bro. That's what I'm doing. But it doesn't make sense until it makes sense. And then once it makes sense, then you realize that God is everything. He's the seemingly good in your life and the seemingly bad, because there is no fucking bad. It's a lesson. And if it's still bad, you haven't learned your lesson. And when life becomes your teacher, fucking life gets real easy. You might have to go through some hard shit still, but the hard shit, like I always say, is going to be hard either way. the unremitting suffering pain of not changing and not learning your lessons because the beatings continue till the lesson is learned, or the pain of growth and changing and finding out who you are. And that's that like flowery type of pain that comes after the pain that you don't think you can endure. But with God's help, you can endure it. So, the feeling that the drink problem will have disappeared. Back to 5. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. After you're 5, the drink problem feeling should come strongly that it's not there anymore. You're going to feel a relief. We feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. Broad highway. And I'm going to start our next little session in 10, 15 minutes on that line, the broad highway. But for now, let's take a quick break.
We'll get back to the podcast in a second. The opinions expressed on this podcast are solely of the guest sharing or myself. We have no affiliation with any 12-step or recovery program. And if you do like our work, please consider visiting BILLWARD.life and supporting what we do. Now back to the podcast.
Okay. Let's go. Okay, I want to find that piece in We Agnostics. Okay. So when we look at that line that I just read, okay, the feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. And that's why when sponsoring, it's so important to take a guy from 0 to step 5 as quick as possible. Especially if you know they're like a chronic relapser and they finally found this spot where they're willing. Like if you can meet with them 2 or 3 times a week and get them from like 0 to step 5, then you get a break here. Like taking too long with somebody that's real desperate, it's a mistake. Oh, I'm going to meet you every 2 weeks. No, man. Like once a week minimum kind of deal. But if you got the time, why not twice a week? Why not 3 times a week? Get them through that process and get the step 5 done as quick as possible, because then this happens. The drink problem is kind of gone. And you got a little bit of breathing room right there. And then we feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. So from there, I want you to flip to page 55 for a second. And when we did this piece weeks and weeks ago, I had mentioned that this was an important little paragraph. Very bottom of the page, second last paragraph. We can only clear the ground a bit if our testimony helps sweep away prejudice, enables you to think honestly, encourages you to search diligently within yourself. Then, if you wish, you can join us on the broad highway. With this attitude, you cannot fail. It's a promise. If you can search diligently and think honestly and look within yourself and clear away the things that block your inner resource, then you can join us on the broad highway, because that's where God is. He's in us. With this attitude, and God will become the attitude. The consciousness of your belief is sure to come to you. So whatever you started the program with, like this belief, okay, I believe, I'm going to try to believe, it becomes conscious. And like I said, when we just read that step 5 piece, the belief of God turns into, now you're starting to feel God, and it changes. But the only way that changes is if you can think honestly. But we're not capable of real honesty on our own. That's why we need people to help us, stay honest. And if we can search diligently within ourselves, then if you wish, you can join us on that broad highway. And with this attitude, You won't fail, it says. You can't fail. The consciousness of that belief will come to you. So no matter what happens, if you just do the work, it comes to you, period. Anyway, back to 75. Walking hand in hand with Spirit of the Universe. Returning home. Now we're getting into step 6 material. This is the very beginning of step 6 right here. And right after you're done step 5, and I've always said through this whole study, this is directions. We want to follow the directions, and you got to be in tune to see what the directions are in the book in between the fluffy bullshit. Because there's a lot of fluffy bullshit in the book. And what I mean by that is theoretical stuff. Theory of God. There's a lot of it. And like the book can become very theoretical. And like, oh, it's fucking so sweet. I love this book. And it makes me warm and fuzzy like God does. Right? That's what the book can do. But the lines in the book, when you're in tune to see the directions, do the directions. And they're hidden in here. And a lot of the people in programs, 12-step programs that use this book, they don't even know the directions. That's why I try to point them out to you guys. So it says returning home. That's like something that you do. Finish your step 5. You return home and you find a place where you can be quiet for an hour. Not with the kids watching TV. Not at the dog park meditating with your dogs. Go home, man. Find a quiet place where you can be by yourself for an hour. And follow that. There's only 2 timelines in the book. Only 2 timelines in the book. One is an hour right after your step 5. Follow the directions. It's an hour. If you finish this process in half an hour, stay the hour, man. Meditate. Do something. And the other timeline is, we read it already in the spiritual experience. What happened in a few months. There's a timeline there. No other timelines in the literature. Carefully reviewing what we have done. It's giving you direction. Review what you've done. Look at that step 4. Look at the defects that might have been pointed out by your sponsor. We thank God from the bottom of our hearts that we know Him better. Do that. Thank God from the bottom of your heart that you know Him better. And if you're sponsoring, get your sponsees to do what it says here. And even though they may not feel like they know God better, it doesn't matter. We do the directions. So get him to say that. Just say this line when you're at home, because that's what it says to say. And like I've said many times before, ritual. These rituals of doing these things over and over is a ceremony that's repeated over and over. That's what spiritual is. That's what a ritual is. It's a ceremony that's done over and over and over and over and over. Taking this book down from the shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps, page 59. Carefully reading the first 5 steps, 5 proposals. We ask if we have omitted anything. And ask God, did I forget anything, God? Is there something missing? For we are building an arch. Remember in step 3? This is the keystone of the new and triumphant arch that we pass through to freedom. So we're building this archway. And this is the keystone. But this isn't the keystone, but this is part of it. Where we walk through past into freedom, and we're trying to learn how to turn our will and our lives over. And this is a big part of it, is basically what it's saying. We're building an arch which we shall walk a free man at last. Is our work solid so far? Question mark. Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? Did I just do a half-assed job on the step 4? Am I trying to make mortar without sand? Am I trying to do an easier, softer way to build this foundation? Whatever it might be. Next page. If we can answer to our satisfaction, then we look at step 6. The most important step in the psychic change and the program of the 12 steps. My opinion. Step 6 is the most important step in the psychic change. We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we had admitted are objectionable? Question mark. So are we really willing to let God remove these things that we just learned about in our 4 and our 5? And some of these things that we had admitted are objectionable might be, using women or using men. Or using men for security and financial aspects, or for like a roof over our heads, or, whatever it might be. Maybe it's your job that you keep doing certain things within the line of work that you're in, but you've revealed that it's actually objectionable behavior. It doesn't really matter what it is, but you can only know what that is with your sponsor for you. And there's some things that are, pretty standard, but you got to ask yourself, and wherever there's a question mark, ask yourself, am I really willing to let this go? Can he now take them all, every one? Boom, he asks again. Can God take these things that you admit are objectionable? What are they? People pleasing, self-pity, playing the victim, being arrogant, trying to control, telling people what to do, judging, being complacent, being lazy, whatever it might be, not standing in your truth, not speaking the truth, trying to control other people's outcomes in their life and avoiding their lessons by you intervening, because the thing about intervening in people's lives is you don't know what their fucking lessons are. So you might think you're doing the right thing, but who knows what the right thing is? The right thing for me was I needed to fucking lose my job and my house and my family and my wife so I could be cracked open. But if I didn't lose those things and somebody intervened and said, oh, here's a whole bunch of money, I'm going to pay, fuck, I'd probably be miserable, and fucking my daughters would be probably not as awesome as they are today because I wouldn't be as awesome as I am. But like in the best possible way, because I had to be cracked open out of the darkness. There's a line in the We Agnostics, and I talked about it when we were there. In the face of collapse and despair and total failure of our human resources, in the face of collapse and despair, in the darkness of life, this is where we find the new power, peace, and sense of happiness flow into us. It's through the pain where you get fucking crushed by your own self-imposed crisis that you can't postpone it or evade it anymore. But it's not our job to fucking help people avoid their lesson. Let them learn their own lessons. And that's why when I work with people, I can only do so much. I'll give you my suggestions, but I guess you might need to be crushed by your own self-imposed crisis that at some point you will not postpone and evade. The book says we were beaten into a state of reasonableness. Sometimes this is a tedious process. So sometimes you got to be beaten into a state of reasonableness. And it's a tedious process. Tedious means long and fucking painful. And that's with defective character. In the first context, it was with the drink and the drug. But really, we all know that the drink and the drug aren't really the problem. It's the defects. And if I'm not willing to get rid of it, and I admit that it's objectionable, it will fuck me at some point. And so whatever the lesson you're resisting, it will always persist. And until you surrender to that lesson and learn that lesson, then it's going to be a hard journey for you in that area. And if that area is a big part of your life, then it'll fuck up a big part of your life. And if you can learn that lesson and it's a big part of your life, then on the other side, there's so much relief and freedom on the other side. So it works both ways. But learning that lesson and letting it go is kind of not that easy to do. But if you're willing and you're honest and you search diligently, then you can let it go. Can he now take them all, every one? If we still cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us be willing. So that's the main thing. If you're not willing, okay. If you're going to still act in that behavior and defect, okay. And maybe you act in it once and then you don't act in it 4 times in a row, and then it bounces around. But if you're still willing to keep trying, and if you're not willing, you just ask God to help you be willing. That's the main thing. Just always be willing to be willing to be willing. And that's why willingness is so important, because without willingness, fucking this is game over. Once you say, fuck it, you're done. You're done. So willingness is so important. And with the faith that you start believing with Creator and you match that willingness, then the remarkable things in your path, you'll see connecting the dots behind you. You're like, holy fuck, that makes me more willing. Because what I didn't think was going to be what it is fucking way better than I thought. And now it's like, fuck, I want more of that shit. So then the pain becomes less fearful, because you know that the God dope and the diamond lies within the pain and the hard parts. And so then God becomes everything, because you know that there's diamonds in that pain, right? And how are diamonds made? They're made under pressure, man. They're made by hard pressure. And that's humility. So if we're still clinging, we ask God to help us be willing. I'm going to read this, but this is not where we're going. This is the step 7 prayer, but we will be going right to step 6 in a moment. When ready, we say something like this: my Creator, I'm now willing. Look at the difference between this prayer and the step 3 prayer. This one is, I am now willing, Creator, that you should have all of me, the good and the bad. Because nothing's good or bad, man. Because you've surrendered, so you're not looking at it like that anymore. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character that stands in the way of what? My usefulness to you, man. I'm no longer asking God to remove these things so I can just get what I want. I'm asking God to remove these things because it stands in the way of my usefulness to him or her or it. That's why. And my fellows, God's kids. Grant me strength, God. Statement, grant me strength, God. You're pulling on God's power as I go from here to do your bidding. And bidding means I listen to something or somebody. And if I'm listening to something or somebody, it's God. And if God is love, then I'm trying to listen and work with love. And when you look further in the definition of bidding, and I've said it before, it says to surrender in an overly slavish way. And the word slavish means without original thought or idea. So you don't have your original thoughts or ideas anymore, because that's where the reservation always lies. What am I not going to get? How's this going to affect me? How's this going to affect others? Blah, 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 blah. And you'll act like this in a good way because you actually love yourself and you will love other people unconditionally. But that doesn't mean that you're co-signing their shit and making their life easy at your expense either. And there becomes an intuitive knowing as you learn how to do this. And then it's stamped with amen. Amen means contract. I made a contract with Creator. So, I'm going to read one last thing on step 5 in the 12 and 12. Does everyone have a 12 and 12? I'm just going to read one page out of the 12 and 12, page 60. And then we're going to bust into the beginning of step 6. So, page 60. First full paragraph is about 10 lines down or so. And in my book, you can see I have it highlighted and underlined, basically the rest of that page, because it's so important. Out of all of the pieces of literature that I give out the first paragraph on page 72 in the 12 and 12. It's a step 7 paragraph, page 72, top of the page. I give that one out probably the most, and second most is probably this page right here. The second difficulty is this, and remember, this is step 5. And step 5 in today, like right now, step 5. The second difficulty is this: what comes to us alone may be garbled by our own rationalization and wishful thinking. What comes to me alone? How I think the world should be, how I should be. I'm going to fucking justify my behaviors based on what I think is best for somebody else or for myself or whatever. So it's garbled by my own rationalization and wishful thinking. The benefit of talking to another person, God-centered 12-step, is that we can get their direct comment and counsel on our situation. But if you ain't talking to somebody, you ain't getting that, and you're going to be garbled by your own bullshit, in essence, running your own life on self. Especially if you haven't done a set of steps, and especially if you're in your first 2 years of recovery, because it takes fucking a while to figure this shit out. But if you dig in and you follow the directions and you fucking listen to what I'm telling you in the study, you won't suffer the rest of your life. You'll groove it into your life, and it'll become a way of life. And you'll see the diamond through all of this. Even though it will be hard and some of your life will be shaken, that's okay. You'll figure it out. So we can get their direct comment and counsel on our situation. And there can be no doubt in our minds what that advice is. Going at it alone in spiritual matters alone is dangerous. Our lives depend on spiritual way of life. Going at it alone in any aspect for us is dangerous because everything's a spiritual matter for us, man. How many times have we heard well-intentioned people, and again, you can live your life with the best of intention and self runs the show all over underneath. You can't run it with the best of intention and just insert what you think are principles in your life. Because self is under it and it's cunning and you're still running your life, which will fucking make you feel restless, irritable, discontent, but sober, and often takes the person back to the drink, which is why talking to people, identifying the selfish consistency within your own thinking and then exposing it, the truth about stock and trade. One object is to find these damaged and unsaleable goods, discard them promptly without regret. If the owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about the values. You're not fooling yourself about the values anymore. How many times have we heard well-intentioned people claim the guidance of God when it was all too plain they were sorely mistaken? I see it all the time. Lacking both practice, ceremony, ritual, and humility, they had diluted themselves and were able to justify the most errant nonsense on the ground that this is what God had told them. It is worth noting that people of very high spiritual development almost always insist on checking with friends or spiritual advisors. I'm going to reread that. It is worth noting that people of very high spiritual development almost always insist on checking with friends or spiritual advisors. The guidance they feel they have received from God. Surely then a novice ought not lay himself open to the chances of making foolish and perhaps tragic blunders in this fashion. And that's what people do all the fucking time. They open themselves up to making foolish and potentially tragic blunders because they're not getting guidance from God-centered 12-step pillars, and they think they know what's best, and they're going to insert the principles that they think are best into their lives and fucking get themselves in entanglements with other people and still fight everything and everyone. But really, they're fighting themselves, man. And they're not letting the people learn their own lessons. So when you look at Tradition 10, we have no opinion on outside issues. AA has no opinion on outside issues. Hence, the AA name is not drawn into public controversy. Well, if you have no opinion on outside issues outside of yourself, then you're not drawn into fucking other people's drama because of their trauma. But when you look at Tradition 4, each group is autonomous, except in matters affecting other group or A as a whole. Well, if you're autonomous, but your autonomy means the ability to govern yourself. So each group is autonomous. They can govern themselves however they want, but they can't affect other people or the world as a whole, right? So I'm autonomous. My whole autonomy was based in fear, based in me controlling, and I affected a lot of other people in the world as a whole. And a lot of times I thought I was doing the right thing. But my autonomy was fear-based, but I didn't know that, right? So then I did do the steps, and then it starts the beginning of me walking hand with Creator, and so my autonomy starts changing to a loving autonomy. And through my own willingness to search diligently and think honestly, I start rooting myself of my own bullshit, and I start loving myself, and I start basing my life in Creator. And then my autonomy becomes based in Creator. So then each group is autonomous. I'm autonomous. And I have no right to affect other people or the world as a whole in a bad way. But I can affect the world as a whole and other people in a good way. But I have to do it through my attraction, not promotion. So, does that make sense? Okay. Spiritual advisors, the guidance they feel they have received from God, surely then a novice not lay himself open to the chancing making foolish, perhaps tragic blunders in this fashion. While the comment or advice of others may be by no means infallible, it is likely to be far more specific than any direct guidance you may receive while you are so inexperienced with establishing contact with a power greater than yourself. So the advice that I give to people may be by no means infallible, but it's far more specific than the direct guidance that somebody who hasn't even done the steps, or that is on step 8, or that has 1 year or 2 years in. My advice is pretty fucking solid. And I really care about people. I'm going to give them the best advice. And I'm going to be a little bit arrogant here. I'm going to say, and Creator, have mercy on me. I don't mean this in a really arrogant way. I've gotten good at this. The advice that I give is fucking bang on, man. I'm going to give you guys a little story. So I sponsored somebody a few years ago, okay? And they said to me, I want to help other people. That's why I want you to sponsor me. And you fucking tell me that. I shouldn't tell you guys. Then you'll all ask me to sponsor you. But when somebody says that, I really just want to fucking serve God and help his kids. Really. Because that's what I fucking want people to do. That's what I want you all to do. So this person said, I really just want to help people, man. I really just want to help people. And I'm like, fuck. Because I told them no 5 times. And then finally they said that. And I'm like, fuck, okay, let me think about it. And then I did it. And I gave it my best effort. And this person was so willing to do the fucking things that I said. They blocked men on Facebook. They fucking would call me when these texts would come in. She would fucking just give me all the data so I could give her good, solid advice. And she did everything, man. And then her life got really fucking good. But her foundation of her life was shaken too. But I told her, just trust, man. Trust. It's going to be okay. This is all happening for a reason. And then it all worked out. She got her a good career and all these things and blah, blah, blah. But she never really helped that many people. And I watched it. The thing about me like wanting people to do that is I can't make anyone do anything. And it's not my job to go tell you to do it because that's what you said. Then I'm playing God. So I got to let people do what they're going to do. And I let her do what she was going to do. And so happens like when we're many years now into their recovery and certain things are really falling apart today. You know, there's a lot of focus on like the vanity and like, you know, career and all the things that she wanted. And, you know, everything's kind of working out. But then recently they're not working out. And there are things that like affect her career and her vanity and things like this. And I said to her the other day, I said, you know, I've been working with you a long time. One of the things you said that was the fucking clincher for me working with you is you wanted to help a lot of other people. I said, you haven't really helped that many people. You just been taking it all for you. And she's like, you're right. And I said, I think this is God shaking the foundation of your life to say, it's not about that. It's not about that. And it ain't about that. Your commitment, your contract was with God to do what you said you were going to do. And like, so he's shaking your life because you're fucking not waking up to see the lesson. And so I said all this stuff and I was hard on her. And I said, maybe I'm wrong because I don't know, but she agreed. She's fully in agreement because she said, maybe I should just go away and spend time by myself. And I'm like, the last thing you fucking should do is go away by yourself. It's all been about you the whole time. Why don't you fucking grab a big book and start helping some fucking women like you said you would when you made that contract, remember, on our knees fucking 4 years ago? And I think, I don't know what's going to happen, but I see this shit, man. I see it. And like, I know if I fuck around in my life, I'm in big trouble. I try my best to not fuck around because I made many commitments to my creator and at Sundance and with the pipe and I'm in recovery and I have already seen like when I did fuck around earlier, it starts coming back around in a bad way. Because I spent so much of my life being not a good human, and then I made the commitment to live my life the way God would want me to, I can't not do that now. There's big consequences. And the more commitment you make to God, the more, it's not like he's like punishing me. He wants me to heal so I can better do thy will. And so I know that, but I'm really good at seeing it in other people's lives too. And I will tell them the truth if they ask me, but I'm not going around just telling everyone like what I just told you about somebody. But that opportunity was tactful and it was common sense and it was the right time. So we'll see what they do. The comment or advice by others may be by no means infallible, but it is likely to be far more specific than any direct guidance that she might be receiving while she's still learning, right? So, yeah. So I don't think I can really start step 6, but step 6 is going to be pretty deadly. And I will start a little bit of step 6. I just want to talk about the first page a little bit, kind of like hook you guys in for the next session. Because step 6 is the most important step, okay? Where is step 6 worked? It's worked in your step 10. It's in the directions of step 10. And when step 10 is worked in its entirety, it's mostly step 6 to begin with. Because it's a lot of fucking changing and it's really hard. And we're learning how to turn our will and our lives over through a lot of trial and error and pain. But are we willing? And are we honest? Are the main premises to really get the step 10 to turn to a step 7? Because as we read the step 7 prayer, that's a surrender. That's a deep level surrender where you're asking God to help you because you want to help his kids so you can serve Creator better. And then that as I go from here to do your bidding and amen, those are like deep surrenders. But how you get to that surrender is you got to go through the pain of step 6. By these things that are objectionable, that are still fucking your life. Like I was just talking about my friend, they're going through that right now. She wasn't willing to let go of some of those things, and they're crushing her. Self-imposed crisis. And she's going to learn, or not. Hopefully she does, and I think she will. So when we get to step 6, this is like the level that we work this at. There's boys, and then there's men. There's girls, and there's women. This is like trying to be the fucking man and the woman. The boys are only going to do enough work that gets them by. The girls are going to just do enough work that gets them by. They're not willing to fucking change the things. So, this is the step that separates the men from the boys. So declares a well-loved clergyman who happens to be one of AA's greatest fans. He goes on to explain that any person capable, this is a line and a paragraph you should really highlight. Any person capable of enough willingness and honesty. Notice willingness was first this time, okay? Willingness and honesty to try repeatedly step 6 on all his faults without any reservations, whatever, has indeed come a long way spiritually. So as you're willing and honest to try to remove these things with God's help repeatedly, which is the ritual, ceremony over and over and over, God help me remove these things, on all your faults, all the things that you know are objectionable, without reservation. The problem is the reservation's always there. But eventually, the level of surrender, the reservation's not there, and you are willing. Has indeed come a long way spiritually. Means you get closer to God the more that you remove these things out of your life. And is therefore entitled to be called a man or woman who is sincerely trying to grow in the image and likeness of his own creator. Basically, I'm trying to be the best human being I can, and I'm willing to keep trying. I will claim spiritual progress, not perfection, out of everything that I do, and I won't make mistakes anymore. I'm going to keep trying, and because I know that I don't make mistakes because of that surrender, then the guilt, self-pity, and me beating myself up, it actually goes away. Because a lot of us beat ourselves up. But when we're trying to change and we have that level of fucking willingness to change, then the self-love starts building. And we starting to love ourselves at the beginning stages of that in the first couple years. It really fucking grabs hold of self-love around year 3 and 4. You'll feel it different. You'll believe you're loving yourself in year 1, and I'm not saying that you won't. But in year 3 and 4, if you keep going, you'll fucking go, holy shit, I really do love myself. And it's quite different than the first year love for yourself. And of course, this often disputed question of whether God can and will, under certain conditions, remove defects of character will be answered by a prompt affirmative by almost any AA member. And so I'm going to say it will not be answered with the prompt affirmative by any AA member, because most members of the 12-step programs actually aren't doing that at the level that it's needed, and they don't even understand it. So it's actually not true. Maybe back here when Bill wrote this, it was true, but today it's not true. But it will be answered by a prompt affirmative by a lot of people that are really trying, because this is the step, man. This is the one. I'll say that it's the most important step in my life. To him, this proposition will be no theory at all. It will be what? About the largest fact of his life. This is the step that changed my life, man. This is the largest fact of my life. This is the step that changed my life. And like all through the first year and the second and third year, I made a lot of fucking mistakes. But I really didn't make mistakes because I was sincerely trying to grow in the image and likeness of God. I really wanted to fucking change. And I started realizing it didn't matter what you fucking actually thought of me, because my pillars knew I was trying to change. I knew I was trying to change, and I have shortcomings. So I wasn't acting in the defects on purpose. I was falling short because I still didn't know better. And when I fall short, then I can still love myself. But when I act in defects, I actually will shame and guilt myself because I'm actually not doing it at the level that I know I'm capable of. And I'm still not willing to let it go. Does that make sense? Okay, to him it will be about the largest fact in his life. And we will stop right there.